Hi, my name's Steve McCartney. I'm the President of the Trades and Labour Council, and I'm also the Chair of the WA International Committee and the State Secretary of the Australian Manufacturing Workers Union. So it's a pleasure to meet you, and really looking forward to tonight to hear a little bit about what you're dealing with in your own country, and what we so we can understand a little bit better, and so we can support it. So how are you? Everyone okay?
I think we're just waiting for we're not going to start just yet.
Good, yeah, good.
Okay.
Steve, would you like to drink a little water or something?
I'm fine. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
So they haven't got
We usually start our meetings with acknowledgement of country. That's just paying our respects to our first people in Australia, and then we'll move on from there. And I'll introduce the first speaker after we give some background. So bear with me. Okay.
I think Tim's just bringing some good luck from the ground floor.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Steve.
Very good. Very good. I'm not as good as the language with Phil, so you'll have to excuse me. I think Phil's been in a room practicing it all day.
Yeah, I know, that's right. English.
He makes me look like a rank amateur, so I'll just say hello, it's easier.
Nice to see you anyway, Steve.
Yeah, it's good, it's good. Yeah, good to see you too, Phil. I think we got, I might be talking to you a bit later on about hostile ships too, you know, because we believe that they're running around your way somewhere, so we need to have a word to you. We're going to think about organising them nationally, internationally.
I'm in Cambodia at the moment.
Oh, are you? Oh, I tell you what, they're a long way away from you then. But they have got I believe they've got a organisation working out of Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah, sales and logistics, I think. So we want to see what makes them tick, because there's about 500 design and engineers, which they use for most of their shipbuilding design and engineering all around the world. So if we knock them off in Western Australia, we've got a good hold on where they're doing stuff all around the world, and we can get some good information to help our friends in the KMU and others to organise around them.
Yeah, right. Well, that's yeah.
Okay. I've just got Phil creates the illusion that he's just helping us with with the equipment and everything, but he's actually running the show. Okay, and he's just told me that I've got to get started. So we might tee off. The first thing I'll say is welcome, and we're having this meeting tonight on Whadjuk Noongar land. We pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. I'd like to welcome everyone in the room to the Zoom, and of course our guests from overseas. The COVID pandemic has been a shock for everyone. I can't and I won't speak for what it's meant for our neighbours in Indonesia. That is part of what we're here tonight to listen to. In Australia, we've seen some real meaning given to solidarity, and we're trying to cope with the shock of the lockdowns, hospitalisations and deaths. By any measure, Australia has been fortunate as a wealthy country isolated from the rest of the world. We've been able to stop the spread considerably, though not entirely. Australia and West Australia are in no way fortunate in the impact of asbestos and other lung disease from the forms and parts of the other part of our discussion tonight. West Australia has had a large asbestos mine, and asbestos was heavily used in home and other constructions for many decades. Our fight to ban asbestos lives on, and it's gained some form of justice for victims in the long term. Our fight still goes on in too many places around the world, including Indonesia. So tonight, we've got 3 guest speakers, and our first speaker wants to talk on this subject is Dr. Anna Soraya. Is that right? Now I'd like to welcome you to speak, Anna.
Thank you. And can I share my PowerPoint now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me and for caring for us in Indonesia during this pandemic. And I'm Anna. I am an occupational medicine doctor, and I have been working with Indonesia Ban Asbestos Network for more than 5 years. And today I'm happy to share about our experience to cope with COVID-19 and how the Inaban movement influenced the way of our government to cope with this pandemic and to define an occupational COVID-19. And first of all, I just will talk like 10 minutes, and I love to have like more time to discuss with all of you. And this is the graph of the COVID-19 cases in Indonesia, you know, and in the beginning of 2020, we seemed doing well, but then in June and the cases start to increase and exploded in July and August. Why? Because during New Year and then Eid al-Fitr and Ramadan, our government put a restriction in place, and then in June, maybe we thought that we are safe, and then our government just loosened the restriction, and then people celebrated carelessly. They just gather and visited their family and even back home to their hometown. And then we experienced the worst thing with this COVID-19. The worst in a day, the case were 55,000. And in just a month, we lost around, in July, we lost 200 doctors. It's kind of horror for us in Indonesia. And what happened in workplaces, actually, if the cases and the community increase, the cases in the workplace also follow shortly. So there is no difference, the dynamic of COVID-19 between the community and the workplaces. And how COVID-19 affect our workers into two way, direct effect and indirect effect. Direct effect, if the workers got contracted with COVID-19, at least there are temporary disability, like at least 14 days, the worker couldn't go to work. If the infection is severe, maybe need 3 to 6 months or longer to just off from their work, and some of them pass away. And direct effect, when when we apply lockdown, some workers have to become unemployed, and then but in other industry the demand increase, and some worker experience really hard overtime. So this is really a wide gap of employment during this pandemic. And how government support us? I can't explain the whole response, because we all of have been overwhelmed with this pandemic. I just want to share how our government then launched the movement like to ask the Indonesian workers to be the agent of change. So our government have conducted a lot of campaigns and socializations and empowered Indonesian workers by significant knowledge about COVID-19. And we encourage then the worker to share their knowledge to their families, relatives, environment, neighborhoods. So all of us involved in prevention measure for COVID-19. And our Ministry of Health also has collaborated with Ministry of Trade, and we train trader in a traditional market about how to prevent COVID-19, and we encourage the trader to share the knowledge about COVID-19 during their interaction in traditional market. So we really encourage Indonesian workers to become the agent of change to protect our community from COVID-19. And then I would like to share about how Inaban influenced the way our government to manage occupational COVID-19. And this, I will refer to the report of National Social Security about compensation claim for occupational disease. I will explain carefully here. Indonesian government issued the law of the obligation to report occupational disease in 1993. However, then in 2016, there have been only 21 cases have reported to our government. This is kind of less than one case of occupational disease reported to our government. And then in 2016, Inaban started investigating of asbestos-related disease among among asbestos factories worker, and it resulted the first asbestos-related disease compensation claim in Indonesia. It's kind of shocking if we trace back to how our 24 years work were that law. But we learned a lot from this. I mean, we are in Inaban, and our government also learned from this process. And then Inaban continue to investigate the risk of asbestos among workers, our government, and then in 2018, we bring another 5 as occupational asbestos related disease compensation claim. Then our government responded with really significant one that in 2019, our government issued a presidential decree. We adopted the list on the ILO list of occupational disease. So we have kind of the same list with ILO now, and our government also revised the reporting system. Before the previous law, only company management that have the right to report an occupational disease. And the new law, doctors and healthcare facilities can report the occupational disease. So this is kind of encouraging from government to report the occupational disease. And, with the consequences, our government bring a lot of workshop training to empower doctors to diagnose occupational disease, develop some guidance, and issue the policy related to that. And what happened when COVID-19 arrives in Indonesia? We already been familiar with occupational disease. So our government just easily accept that we need to recognize occupational COVID-19 among workers, especially healthcare workers. And in July 2020, Ministry of Health issued the act to notify that COVID-19 is one of the occupational disease that should be compensated by Indonesian government. And then in 2020, the reported case increased 400 times, 10 to 40. And then in 2020, the number of compensation claims, in particular COVID-19, increased to 200 in a year. You know, this is really a kind of, we can imagine that we can make it actually, because compared to 24 without any significant report, in just 1 year, the report increased. This is because we have learned from the work from Inaban. And this is occupational. And this week we are in really tough discussion, but our government agreed to issue the Ministry of Health Act that put asbestosis and mesothelioma among 23 occupational diseases that should be recognized by all Indonesian doctors. And then government responsible to do massive training and education to Indonesian doctors so they can diagnose asbestosis and mesothelioma in Indonesia. And I believe that Inaban has brought significant impact to Indonesia, not only for the asbestos elimination movement, but also in Indonesia's whole occupational health matter. And Inaban will continue to advocate the elimination of ARDS in Indonesia, while also play an essential role in increasing awareness of workers' welfare. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're asking people that are online if they've got any questions. Could we put them on chat? And we'll put all the questions up after we've heard the three speakers, and we'll have a question and answer time at the end. Okay? Okay, so if you've got any questions and you're online, if you put them on chat, we'll put those questions up at the end. Okay? Thank you.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Darusman. He's one of the founders of the local initiative OHS Network, Lion Indonesia, a civil society organisation focused on the strengthening of grassroots movements to protect workers' rights. In 2010, together with Labour, environmental and health activists, established Inaban, an asbestos ban network organisation in Indonesia. The initiative to establish the Lion Indonesia and Inaban organisations are based on his experience in organising with victims of occupational accidents and illnesses who together must speak up and become frontliners in improving working conditions and the environment. Currently, Darusman is active in the capacity of building campaigns to protect workers' rights in Indonesia. Thank you, Darusman. What a great job you've been doing.
Thank you for introducing me. So I want to share the screen. Okay, you can see my screen. Just want to confirm you can see my screen.
Maybe you can make it full screen if you can. Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay.
Yep. Good.
Okay, thank you everybody for your time, and it's my opportunity to share about our work and actually to to build our solidarity actually. Thank you so much for your attention. And like Petrana said, I just want to continue about the COVID situation in Indonesia. So until now, that has more than 4 million people in Indonesia that affected because COVID-19, and until now that has some 130,000 people pass away. And that has a second wave last month, actually on July, that has more than 50,000 people that affected by COVID, and more than 2,000 people that pass away. And actually, one of the government program on this pandemic is that how to bring the target on the vaccination. Actually, if you see on my screen that government have a target on the vaccination is more than 200 million people get vaccine, but until now only 61 million people that already get the first dose, and then 34 million for the second dose. So it will be a long journey for Indonesia, I think, to reach the herd immunity, because about the vaccination, a big challenging in Indonesia for right now, actually. And I want to say about what the impact of the pandemic to the worker in Indonesia. Indonesian government state that has 3.5 million workers that affected because the COVID situation, but I think the number is more than actually. So what we do or Lion do on this situation, so we cooperate with the worker and trade union to make or collect the data directly from the worker or union. So we cooperate with the almost 70 factory, and then we collecting, we interview the worker, and then mostly in the garment sector actually. So many of the worker, around 30 in the garment sector, only 30,000 workers that have a dismissal from the 17 factory. And then, of course, the other impact is not only laid off or dismissal, but also reduce their working hour. It impact to the reducing the worker wages, because many of the factory apply the system like they call this like no work no pay. So if you didn't work, the factory will not pay you. So even that's the policy is from the factory. So many, more than 100,000 workers from the 46 factory that's impacted for this situation. So many of them decreasing their wages. And the interesting one is that has a 4 factory close, and then 1 factory, the reason of close is relocation, because this factory is from the Jakarta area. The wages is more bigger than the other area. So what we call is like the pandemic situation used by the factory to relocate their factory to the cheaper wages area actually. So I think in the situation pandemic used by the capital to how to keep the dig up their profit actually. And what we did in the COVID situation is what we believe is that the best vaccine is solidarity among us, actually between us. So we cooperate with the union, and then also with the victim groups organization to spread how to mitigate the COVID virus, not only between the worker, but also we link it to the community, how we distribution the with it like PPA of like masker, poster for the information, because for the first time on the COVID situation that many of the false information, wrong information to the public. So we have to mitigate on that on the information also. And then the second is about we create the health protocol because for the first time when the COVID in Indonesia, that I think many of the stakeholders, including government, it's look like is it confused how to face it actually. And then also in the field situation, also that the we don't know the worker didn't know how to face it actually if in the in the factory. So many the company try to deny about the worst effect of the COVID. So why we cooperate with the union to create the health protocol on the union version actually. So it's challenging. It's for the challenge from the government version. So many of the union use this version as the reference to do the bargaining to the company. So in our data has a 5 union use this health protocol as the reference. So it's quite nice, I think. And what we did is, so it's because we organizing the victim group, OSS victim group, including asbestos-related disease. So we try because the victim is the one of the group that has a vulnerable people on this pandemic. So how we keep give the assistance for them to give the information, and also trying to linkage them to another group. So we don't want that the victim just quiet, but the victim have to do something. So we have tagline like victim help victim or survivor help survivor. We make the campaigns on the media social, and then the victim groups also produce the masker, make the hand sanitizer by themselves, and then they distribute to the other community, they distribute to the workers. So it's the linkage, and then it's make them empower. So that's one of big achievement for us on the situation pandemic, because even the situation is challenging, but we can create the solidarity between the victim to worker, victim to the victim. That's the best experience for us actually. And for the second wave of COVID last July, actually we make some like base camp or shelter to support the worker or community who have difficult to get the access on the health and the food actually. So we collect donation from the others, from the worker and from the victim, and then we distribute to the someone who need it. The good thing on the shelter is because many of the worker and community affected and then by the COVID and have to do the quarantine by themselves, and then they didn't get the access to the clinic. So we have to support them. Like vitamin, food, and etc. The worst thing when someone get the COVID is, I think, based on our experience, is that their mental is going down a lot. So we support them on the mental healing also. So it's quite nice. And then we told to them they not alone, and then you have to keep hope, and then so it's like psychological assistance for them. Still have a stigma in Indonesia. If someone gets COVID, you get some bad thing, It was not only for you, but also for the community. Community will judge you something bad if someone get the COVID. So that's the why the mentality of the someone who get the COVID is going down. So we're trying to give the information and increase their motivation, and then so not only the vitamin and then not only the the food and etc. So that's encourage us to keep until now this POSCO, this shelter keep running. And again, the who running is the victims has a 5 shelters. In Bandung, Bekasi has a 4 shelter, and then also in Central Java. So we have a networking, local networking in work in this one. And related to the asbestos, of course, even on the pandemic, we have to keep running to fight on the advocate asbestos, ban asbestos in Indonesia. So actually on our strategy, how to ban asbestos, of course, we have how to keep to strengthen the grassroots movement, and then also we are trying to advocacy policy in the national level or on the region level, and also we have another division on the knowledge management and resource center to produce the information to active on the social media and etc. So these 3 elements, how we work on the ban asbestos campaign sector. And it's the background of the asbestos in Indonesia. So actually almost 90% of the asbestos is used for the roof in Indonesia. So, and if you see this is the Indonesian geographical, and then if you see the 10 provinces with the asbestos roofing higher, is the first is Jakarta, and then the second is in Sumatra, that has the Sumatra Island, this one, in Riau and Bangka Belitung, and then also in Banten province, and then West Java, Bali, maybe Bali. So that's the one of the highest asbestos consumption in Indonesia. So if you go to Bali, please be careful. Okay, the next is, actually on the regulation, like Dr. Anna said, in Indonesia, asbestos, including government, that use the campaign that asbestos is safe, so safe use of asbestos. So, it's the big challenge for us. Even government always said that blue asbestos is already prohibited, so now it's no asbestos, only chrysotile. So the government. And that's on the law actually. So the government divide on the asbestos and chrysotile, and then I think, as you know, it's the pro asbestos lobby trying to influence the government on this campaign. So it's still we keep advocate on that policy. What government recognized that asbestos is hazardous toxic material, and then with the A1 it's carcinogenic, and then but on the implementation the law is not not really implemented, and so why we still keep to advocate this way. Okay, this is our historical advocacy moment. So Inaban or Lion established on 2010, and then so for the first 5-year period, we focusing actually how to develop the organization, and then we do take the many sample of asbestos, and then we organizing the worker in the asbestos factory actually, and so that's on our focusing on the first 5 years, how to organizing the worker in the asbestos factory in Indonesia, and then connecting with the union in there actually. And then for the second 5 years, so we're trying to to experiment actually to trying to bring the victim, like Dr. Anna said, the worker to do some medical tests on. So we cooperate with the medical expert like Dr. Anna, and then so yeah, we reached some milestone, and then it's historical for us on Inaban actually, that on 2017 that the first asbestos disease compensation. On that year also, we organizing the victim OSH victim group, and then that firm established and then we won that OSS victim group as the leader or leading the advocating actually. And then after the have the recognize the victim by the state actually has made following by the changing of the policy. We testing on the local government like in Bandung, and then also we have some achievement in there that Bandung adopt the asbestos as the hazardous material and prohibit on the building actually. So on the second 5 years, we work on the victim group advocating, and then also try actual experimentation on the local policy. So, and now we are on the 2010. So actually our plan is for the third 5 year is trying to go to the national level law actually. But because of course have the some pandemic, have the COVID, and then so it's a little bit to change. So, and this year we're planning to bring the asbestos, not only the factory issue, but also to bring the public issue. So we want to trying to go to the national level on the advocating low consumer or consumer protection, because we have the opportunity on the law, because on the consumer law that if someone produce something and sell to the public, have to put the ingredient and the risks, you know. And then if asbestos, because we found many of the asbestos products didn't say the ingredient asbestos, you know, and then didn't put the health risk on that product. So it's the changing, it's the opportunity for us, and that so we want to bring this issue for this year to advocating that policy actually. Of course, we have the assumption that the pandemic COVID still running until 2022. So of course it's still trying to arrange the strategic and tactic on the local on the law, how to bring this case to the law actually. But now that's our focusing. How to bring the asbestos issue, not only the worker issue, but also the community, the public issue. That's my presentation, and thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
It's always difficult to unmute before you clap. Thank you very much. If there's any questions of Dasman, could we make sure that we get them on chat, and we'll go through them at the end of Phil's presentation. Okay, Phil Hazelton is currently the coordinator of Eliminating Asbestos-Related Diseases campaign for Union Australia, the Union Aid Abroad, a feeder across Southeast Asia, and is currently based in Cambodia. Phil is an executive officer of a feeder 1990 to 2001, and has since worked in the National OH&S Coordinator of the AMWU 2006 to 2009. Thought there was something we liked about Phil. And spent 15 years living in Asia. Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia, working for both the ILO as Chief Technical Officer of Industrial Relations in Project 2014 to 2016 in Vietnam, and a feeder in various roles. So that's quite a mouthful, Phil. It's over to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And hi, everybody. Great to see so many friends here tonight, this afternoon. And selamat siang to all those in Indonesia. And great to hear from Anna and Darusman also on those updates. And can I say, first up, huge congratulations to Inaban and to Leon for this great work. AFIDA has been directly supporting the work of Leon and through them to Inaban since 2015. And we are the key supporter now for their work in Indonesia around asbestos. Also, big thanks to WA unions and especially Phil for organising this webinar. My job's pretty easy tonight. I just want to talk a bit about how AFIDA is working on the asbestos campaign in the region and also specifically in Indonesia. I think many of you will know, but some of you won't, that asbestos is one of the key campaigns of United Broad AFIDA. Based on the terrible legacy of asbestos in Australia. And we're trying to spread that warning to Asia, the last major market for this deadly product. But we are battling because of the long lead time between the cancers developing and exposure and the poor health and safety systems in a lot of different countries. But our main battle is with the evil asbestos industry that pumps out lies and misinformation and corruption to maintain its industry. So the work of AFIDA in the region is basically to support movement building, to support band networks like Inaban and Leon and their networks, and support trade unions in the region to respond and to advocate for protection for workers and consumers around asbestos. We directly support the campaign in 4 countries, but also work regionally, including cooperation with the Asia Ban Asbestos Network. We also do some connection with the Pacific now as well, as some of those countries move to ban asbestos. And we also use AFIDA's over 30 years on the ground presence in some countries, particularly Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, those sorts of countries. And the partnerships we've built up over that time to bring these issues and the evidence directly to governments and connect international experts for networks in each country. But as we gear up the campaign, so does the asbestos lobby. So this is quite a difficult campaign, a bit like, I guess, others have known in relation to tobacco or others. But every country has fought this battle to successfully ban asbestos. So we're now a big state in Asia. I think someone's got their mic on. If that's... In Indonesia then, particularly, we are supporting Leon with funding and with a key funder now for their work, both in the campaigns that you just heard about and also in some new research around COVID-19 and impact on workers this year, and other forms of support, which I'll talk about in a little while. We raise funds in Australia from trade unions and individual supporters to support this work in Asia, and particularly Indonesia. Some of the money we raise from unions and from donors, we also get matching funds from the Australian government, from Department of Foreign Affairs. And we also get some fund support from the Asbestos Safety Eradication Agency of the Australian government, and also their technical support. We work very closely with them in our work in Asia. And also from time to time, different donors, for example, the International Ban Asbestos Secretariat. I see Laurie is on the Zoom tonight. So we're getting some support from IBAS also for the Indonesia program this year. The particular unions that are supporting Indonesia at the moment in the campaign, of course, WA unions and SICTUR, thank you very much for your commitment in the next period the Australian Education Union, Manufacturing Workers Union, UWU, CPU and MUA directly provide some small grants to this work in Indonesia. The New South Wales nurses also support asbestos campaign in other ways. Besides the funds, we have a lot of different connections in terms of trying to support Indonesia campaign. We've supported international study tours and linkages, Australian Union study tour to Indonesia and also Vietnam. And we've also supported a Canadian speaking tour to tour Indonesia and the Mekong region. In 2020, just before the COVID pandemic hit us all, we did support a safe removal training at the CFMEU Centre in Melbourne for 9 participants from the region, including 3 from Indonesia, to get a certificate course in safe removal of asbestos material. And that was very lucky that we got that in before COVID really locked everything down. The Asbestos Safety Agency conference, we also have been sending people to that. And the most recent one was in Perth in 2019 that we sent people to. So that was a great experience, I think, and chance for Dr. Anna, in this case, to go to Perth and present and share her experience and her great research work. She's just completing a PhD, Dr. Anna, and has done some brilliant research for the first time exposing asbestos disease in Indonesia. And that we can share with anyone who's interested later as well. So that was another way that we try and support the partners in Indonesia. We're also working with the Asia Ban Asbestos Network for a regional conference coming up at the end of next month, which will involve 10 different countries, where we try to promote different learning of the different ban networks, experiences, and sharing of videos and materials, and also develop some strategy against the lobby. Finally, we also take the campaign globally and regionally. So we take the campaign to try to reform the Rotterdam Convention, which is one UN convention that tries to regulate hazardous substances. The asbestos lobby has a bit of a stranglehold on that particular convention. So we've given up on the convention listing itself, but we're trying to get a reform of the whole convention. So this is quite a big campaign that a number of global unions, ACTU, is directly involved in over the next couple of years. We've also been quite successful in the regional campaign with the regional development banks, the Asia Development Bank, ADB, and also the Asia Infrastructure Bank, AIIB. So both of those regional banks who have billions of investment in infrastructure in the region are now moving to stop using asbestos-containing materials due to this campaign in any sort of infrastructure investments that they support. So far that's formally been announced by the AIIB, but we expect the ADB to also do the same in coming months. So as a key donor, we're also trying to work with Lion on capacity building and help them with issues in relation to their sustainability as an NGO. So the challenges we've heard today from Indonesia are very big. Obviously, the COVID is sweeping the region now from what was, the region escaped a bit last year, but now the Delta variant's really causing havoc in many countries. So they're huge challenges. And of course, asbestos, Indonesia is the top 3 importers of asbestos-containing materials and asbestos fibre. I think Indonesia is still importing 115,000 tonnes of raw fibre every year for mainly building products. So the exposure of asbestos for Indonesians is huge. For workers in manufacturing is huge. I think there's more than 35 manufacturing roof sheet plants still operating in Indonesia. So some of the unions I can see are on tonight from that represent those workers in Indonesia. So these are great challenges, but there's also great energy and ideas coming from our partners and from unions in Indonesia on all these issues. So we want to try and build on that success. Lion and Interban have done extraordinary things in the last few years in terms of really changing the way that compensation for occupational disease is allowed to be done. So it's really opened up a whole, the winniness in asbestosis claim has really opened up all occupational disease compensation because the system's been improved. So this is a really big win. There's been regional bans, as Darusman mentioned. Bandung City has banned asbestos as the first region in Indonesia to do that from future buildings, both commercial and domestic. But also Darusman particularly has been working on other areas like post-disaster regulations, so that when Indonesia is one of the biggest disaster countries in terms of earthquakes and typhoons and all those things. So what they've been able to win is that temporary housing after disasters cannot use asbestos containing materials. And this is quite a big win because we know the asbestos lobby loves to give away asbestos products in times of crisis, floods and typhoons to make goodwill with the government and with the people. So this is all very big wins that they are doing. So we have to continue to challenge this asbestos industry of death. And we are doing so in every country, but sometimes at some risk and pressure to the band networks that are doing this work. So we are having wins, but it's still quite a long battle ahead. Just on the, finally, just on the issue of the COVID, Doris had mentioned the low vaccination rates, and we know all about that in Australia. But AFIDA is also doing the TRIPS waiver campaign at the WTO, and Indonesia is a country that's strongly supporting that waiver. I think the British Medical Journal called it a crime against humanity, the fact that the pharmaceutical companies are withholding the patents for COVID vaccines and possibly treatments in the future, mainly for rich countries. So this is a big campaign that AFIDA is involved in with a number of different organisations. That's really so important for the world now. Now, just quickly to lighten the mood a little, I will try and share, if I can. Yeah, I'll just share this quickly. That's our campaign slogan, but a few pictures from different areas. So just some examples of things we've done together. This is Wira, who I'm not sure he's on the call now, but this is from about 2017, I think, tour of Australia. And he was previously director of Leon, but now is on the board of Leon. We have Darusman in Melbourne in February at the CFMU Training Centre with others, and that was part of that course I was talking about, and I think we have one more of all of them here. So these are all 9 from the 4 different countries that were involved in that, that training, which was very successful, and really brings up the issue of waste management and regulation, because in most of the countries we are working, there's absolutely no regulation in relation to waste management of asbestos materials. One for Dr. Anna as well. This is in Perth for the SEA conference, where we went to the university there to talk with them on that issue. So that's the group there. And one from a few years ago now, 2017, I think, in terms of the Rotterdam Convention. So this was our campaign on the floor of the convention. And that is Subono from the union, one of the unions in Indonesia, and Surya on the left there, who's currently on the board of Leon as well. And this is, I think, just after Sabono spoke about the victims of asbestos disease and the outrageous fact that chrysotile asbestos has not been listed as a hazardous substance because it's blocked by primarily the exporting countries to be listed as a hazardous substance, so misuse of that convention. Okay, thank you. That's all from me.
Thanks very much, Phil. It was very interesting. Actually, thanks for all three of you for your presentations. It's really got people thinking, and we of course want to use this seminar to try and promote what we're trying to do as the West Australian International Group to support your push through the next year to eradicate asbestos out of Indonesia. So if there's any questions coming forward, have we got any off chat? I might get Phil to drive this computer.
Oh, I had a question, so I might.
Yep, you can start it.
Thank you very much for your contributions. It seemed impressive, both the increase in COVID and then its decline recently. Have there been any particular factors? I think you've said that the vaccine there's not been so much of. So has it just been people isolating or safer practice? Or do you fear that there's been not enough detection of COVID? Maybe Anna?
Thank you. Actually, our government set kind of lockdown, but we changed the approach to people. In the previous one, we just said kind of whole lockdown, national lockdown, and people like get scared of that approach. But then in these situations, our government bring really soft information like, please just stay at home for 2 weeks. Just stay at home for 2 weeks. And this is regionally regulated by the local government. So the central governments bring the authority to kind set of local lockdown for every province and then district, it's like that. But our government didn't say like 1 month lockdowns, not at all, just like 2 weeks lockdowns. Okay, if in 2 weeks we achieve our goal, and then maybe we can lose the lockdown. And then when the 2 weeks end, then our government said, oh, we need to still stay at home for another 2 weeks. And this is like since the end of since the end of June, we just have kind 2 more weeks, 2 weeks more, 2 weeks more, 2 weeks more. And the last our government announced that we still have to stay at home until 6th of September, just like that. And this is not this is kind of the level of lockdown. The first kind of really level 4, it meant that all people have to stay at home, and then level 3 kind of all people stay at home, level 4, and only essential industries can run. And level 3, people can go back with kind of the requirement, and the second layer of industry can open. And now our government set the app, we call it Peduli Lindungi, Care and Protect, where the app record your vaccination status and the PCR status. You need to bring this app to enter public places like shopping center and workplaces. So it push our people to get vaccinated, because without vaccination you can go to like shopping center or the malls, the big malls, like that. This is what our governments have done to decrease the COVID-19 in Indonesia. I hope I answer your question?
Similar in Australia about a lockdown is one of our most effective tools until we can get vaccinated. Just so that people know, I've got a question from Glenn Thompson, then the CFMEU, and then Maddie, and then Felix, I'll come to you. But I think after those 4 questions, we'll be nearing the point where we'll need to conclude. Glenn.
You're on mute, Glenn.
You need to unmute yourself, Glenn, or do it in interpretive dance.
Someone had to do it, so it may sort of been me. So thanks everyone for those presentations. It's always, I think, important around understanding what's going on in our region, and important as Australian unions, we show international solidarity. A couple of things. Firstly, I wanted to ask a question in respect to the 2020-2025 plan that Darian talked about, and focus on the workers section of it. I noticed there was worker, consumer, and producer. I'm just keen to get a bit of insight, particularly around the CBA stuff and the workers' occupational health and safety training work that you're doing. And secondly, just to pick up on Phil's point, was the issue in respect to the work that AFIDA is doing across the region, and SIG2 globally has supported the principles around Not Here, Not Anywhere asbestos campaign. And just for those Western Australian and Australian unionists, about the support that the International Committee in Western Australia is doing around a 3-year project on this 2020-2025 plan. So question around that. Thank you.
Okay, so answer directly or we what? Okay, so wait a minute. So before the answer, I want to introduce my comrade has Surya here, and then also another comrade from Inaban has Rasmina from the union, and then also Sawung from the Walhi employment activist. So I think maybe they can also support and give some opinion on this conversation, I think. And about our planning about the what actually this planning, we make the planning for the first 5 years, second 5 year, and then also the third 5 year, actually based on the our experience, and then we see the objective and subjective situation on Inaban, and also the political or the law situation. So for the first for the first 5 year on our planning, we focusing on the organizing victim, organizing the worker. It's because our capacity on that time actually. And then we're trying to the next level. We try to the local government, because also the first is because our capacity want to try and try to do something not only on the organizing, but also try to change the policy. And then for the third 5 year, so we do something different, because we have another experience for previously. So we want to do something in the national level, because we have experience. And then when we make this roadmap, actually we do some like a law mapping or policy mapping. On the policy mapping, we see the opportunity where asbestos issue can influence and can get the interest, public interest, not only from the worker, but from the community. So based on that, actually, based on our mapping, so we see that the consumer protection or consumer right is one opportunity that we can thank or we can put as the strategy how to influence the government regulation, and it also can bring the attention, public attention of the Indonesian citizen actually on the asbestos issue, how to make the asbestos be a popular issue. That's actually the for the basic idea why we bring this this way. That's, and then about the global campaigns, I think it's also related with the other. We see the another experience on the another country, and then also international agreement on the related to hazardous material. I think we focusing on the how that the worker and public Indonesia get the together to bring the asbestos as the community issue. So that's what our idea. I hope my friend Surya maybe can support us to answer this one. Another question.
I think I might keep moving with the answers because you did well there. Thank you, Darasaman. We've now got so many questions, and what I might do, I'm going to come to the CFMEU in just a second, but I think I will just read out a few of there's some very good questions in the chat. I'm going to read them out so that we can do all the questions in one short burst. And so I've got a question which I think will come best to Anna from Maddie, who's asking about what, in terms of medical reporting, what barriers you see there are to asbestos reporting. Mohit, and I'm thinking this question again might be best for Anna, has asked about whether asbestos victims with COVID, are there any particular, you know, I think we assume the medical impact is bad, but how much so, and is there much hope in terms of treatment and support? And I thought either Darasman or Philip might answer a good question from Felix about whether or not there is much difference between national and regional governments in terms of the need to have safer practices or banning asbestos. And sorry to have jumped in there with the CFMEU. I know you've been very patient with the queue for a question, but if you could unmute yourself and please ask away. And who you want to ask of. I think you have to, I can ask you to unmute, but I can't unmute you. Shell, oh yes, okay, this is good. Sunlink. Oh, you're on, go.
Hi guys, how are you? Hello to all our Indonesian brothers and sisters. Listen, we just had a question here, because when you were talking, you seem to indicate a pretty good cooperation around asbestos disease between government in some ways. There's no question here in Australia that COVID has been used by some sections of government and industry as an excuse to try and weaken safety and consumer protections around certain issues, and not just in relation to COVID, in relation to many, many things. I'm interested to know whether our Indonesian brothers and sisters have experienced the same thing. Is there sections in the Indonesian community who are using COVID actually as an excuse to weaken consumer protections around things that aren't even necessarily COVID related? Thank you.
Maybe Darasaman, are we seeing other work health and safety breaches and problems locally? Are employers being more dangerous now, do you feel, because of COVID?
Sorry, I can get the voice clearly. Can you repeat the answer?
I think the question is, in Australia, employers are now using COVID as a reason to be more dangerous, not just about COVID or asbestos, but people lifting things that are too heavy and doing dangerous things because people are worried to keep their jobs, and the employers are, are being more dangerous. Is that happening in Indonesia?
In some sector, yeah. I mean, it's funny thing. I mean, like I said that in when we interview the worker, what's the impact of the COVID to their work? Actually, some of the company use the COVID to reduce the working hour, and that means reduce also the wages. That's the wages for the worker. And then the second is they use the pandemic situation as the reason to transfer their production to the cheap wages area. So like on the garments and shoes sector, they happen like that. And then also used for on the pandemic situation, because they not have income and the company not have order and not have produce. So the company use that reason as the to dismiss of the worker. For the danger situation, actually unlucky. I mean, for the worker in Indonesia, many of they still work on the pandemic situation, and still many of them it's not use the PPA properly, and even the government have the policy that when the company on the pandemic situation, so the company have to apply the health protocol like PPA and then hand sanitizer and then distance between the worker on the production line. But the company may need to do some violation to keep running the production 100%, and then because the penalty from the government is so cheap, they only pay if the company do some violence on that. The company have to pay to the government around 15 million. I think that's the maximum. But if the company didn't do that, the company will lose the profit more than 30 million. So the company will do on the manufactured product. Manufactured factory, they still running like no have pandemic in that factory actually. So
yeah, okay. That's very much, I think, what we are experiencing too, Darasaman. If the penalties are not real, employers will, and policing is not good. If you don't mind, I might move on to some of those questions of Anna and Philip as well. I'm just mindful that we promised some people that we would finish by around about now. Anna, Maddie was asking about barriers for people reporting asbestos diseases, medical reporting, and Mohid was concerned about the impact of both COVID and asbestos disease victims, and what that means in terms of medical treatment and support.
Thank you. Actually, the first barrier is the law. The law require that the one who have right to report the occupational disease is the company management. This is by the law. The second, our workers have not enough knowledge about the occupational diseases and about the hazards surrounding their workplaces. we need to increase the awareness of workers about the consequences that they face during their work. And the third, even the doctor, Indonesian doctor also have not enough knowledge about the existence of occupational diseases. And now I work with government, with the Ministry of Health, to empower doctors to recognize occupational disease. Without that, it is hard, to encourage people to report. And also, actually, by new regulations, doctors have the right to report the occupational diseases. However, the insurance companies still use the old law. So we in discussion to solve this problem, and then honestly, I haven't worked with a case of COVID-19 with the comorbid asbestos related disease. We don't have that experience yet. However, we have kind of discussion about the same effect of COVID-19 and asbestosis. The difference is just that COVID-19, you can have lung fibrosis in just 1 second. However, in asbestos, you can get lung fibrosis by like 30 years or more than 10 years. This is the difference. But the end of the result for your lung, asbestosis and COVID-19 is the same if you get kind of fibrosis. And I think I can answer one of the question about the
Regional and national government, maybe?
Yeah, have you seen much friction between the national and provincial government there in the response to COVID-19? Yes, there really kind of clear friction between, West in East Java, East Java province. I cannot. I don't know how to say how the behavior of people in Indonesia, we call it Madura's people. This is kind of the island where people really stubborn, and they, they even like the police and government make like a line, and they do checking to people not to enter that area. They try to separate it. People can just do rally for that, and they can attack the police who who try to screen and to separate the safe people or not. And then the government, the government of East Java province talk carefully with our national government, and they need that our government in center, I mean, that they need an understanding, and they will approach the people with their own manner. This is like we need to respect how the dynamic in that area, because Indonesia is really different in one area to other areas. So we need kind of local wisdom to encourage people to follow the old rule to protect us from COVID-19.
Thank you very much, Anna. Appreciate that answer. It's we've got the wind up to finish the webinar now. I'd like to thank our speakers and participants very much for the very interesting presentations, and also the questions that were developed from those. I want to remind everyone that's not an AFIDA member that now's a really good time to join. And I also would like to remind everyone that we've got another seminar on the 30th of September on unions, politics, and the policy in Indonesia. So we'd like to make sure that we'll send out all the information to make sure you can get on, but keep your eyes open for that in September. Thank you very much for everyone that's got on board today. Thank you once again for the speakers, and stay safe. Ravi, good to see you, brother.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, everybody. Hi, Sugyo.
Bye, everybody. Good to
See
see
ya.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Darisma, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Oh, no.
you.
Where is you?